Honest reflection, but in totality, Monica, we don't often get to hear Caitlin Clark's perspective in quite this level of honesty. And this is an important conversation to continue to have with empathy for everybody involved. So listening to that, what was your reaction?
I thought the choice, the word of being fearful of the conversation after a game that she alluded to was interesting, because oftentimes it seems, at least in the larger discourse, and not that there's not an emotional experience for Caitlin Clark, because I believe that it is, but it's the folks that are accused of doing something outside of the parameters of competition that are actually the ones that are fearful when you look at their social medias. This is what I will say. Caitlin Clark is 24. She is a shining star in the galaxy of the WNBA. But I do think as she continues to matriculate through this league, there's room for a little bit more accountability and self-awareness in terms of her role in the larger sisterhood, if she sees it that way, in the WNBA. But Malika, I agree with her 100%. It is certainly exhausting for all of us who really want to celebrate where this league is and the beautiful basketball that is being played. This larger discourse that can be very disappointing.
Yeah, and I think that we all have a responsibility in seeing where we fit in that discourse, and what we are working to do on this show is focus in right there on the game that we all love so very much, and that's what we're going to do.
Monica McNutt. Caitlin Clark was directly in your face Saturday night. Sunday, you criticized her. Not even 24 hours later. Pathetic. Monica McNutt spent Saturday night standing a few feet away from Caitlin Clark at All-Star Weekend in Chicago. She had a microphone. She had access. She had every opportunity in the world to say whatever she wanted directly to Clark's face in the same building on the same night. Instead, she waited until Sunday, sat down on ESPN's Women's Sports Sunday, and told the country that Clark needs a little more accountability and self-awareness when it comes to her role in the league's larger sisterhood.
I thought the choice, the word of being fearful of the conversation after a game that she alluded to was interesting, because oftentimes it seems, at least in the larger discourse, and not that there's not an emotional experience for Caitlin Clark, because I believe that it is, but it's the folks that are accused of doing something outside of the parameters of competition that are actually the ones that are fearful when you look at their social medias. This is what I will say. Caitlin Clark is 24. She is a shining star in the galaxy of the WNBA. But I do think as she continues to matriculate through this league, there's room for a little bit more accountability and self-awareness in terms of her role in the larger sisterhood, if she sees it that way.
Why her?
Same thing.
Why her?
Well, I was just about to say same thing for Angel Reese when I had a chance to cover their games. But I think Caitlin represented, and again, some of this to me probably is not fair to her, because it was not anything that she said or was truly based on her personality, but she was a white girl from the middle of America. And so she represented a whole lot to a lot of people, whether that is truly what she prescribed to or not. We can all say she is a dynamic basketball player and a force both on the market.
Media and journalism have a responsibility to tell the stories, and a lot of times, like, you guys are the ones controlling the narratives about what people read and what people talk about, and a lot of that is sometimes so far out of touch with what is reality, and that can be confusing to somebody that's 24 and trying to navigate life and trying to help her team win a championship. I think there's just like a false characterization of who I am sometimes, and I get it, like, as a reporter or as a blogger, like, you can write an opinion piece and that's your job and whatever, but at the same time, like, you don't know me. Like, we've never had a conversation. I get people have a job to do, but at the same time, like, don't make accusations about my character and who I am when you don't know me. I understand this is your job and this is your profession and this is what you get to do, and basketball is my profession and what I get to do, and the reason I play it is when I step in between the lines, I love it. And that's what's so fun about it for me, is like, I get to compete. This was always my dream. And nobody should ever try to take that away from me, like the love and the joy that I have for the game, and they haven't and they won't, because it's my goal to win championships, and I know that I can.
Fans didn't wait long to notice the timing, and honestly, neither did we. Because this isn't just about what McNutt said, it's about when and where she chose to say it. There's a difference between constructive criticism delivered in the moment and a delayed call-out dropped on national television once the cameras from the actual event had already packed up and gone home.
I swear to God, y'all forgot to fire somebody. I swear to God, you forgot to fire somebody and lay them off. And that person is Monica McNutt. Just take the Mac off of it. Monica Nutt. Because this lady, at every chance she gets, she wants to bring back the narrative of Caitlin Clark being, and defame her character, and all of a sudden she doesn't have self-awareness and she needs to take accountability for what's going on in the league. I could have swore the other day that you just said that Caitlin Clark was not the face of the league and it was A'ja Wilson. So why A'ja Wilson doesn't step up and take accountability and redirect what's going on in this league? Why it has to be on Caitlin Clark? Nobody cares. She's not the face of the league. She's not the face of the league, right? According to you. But now you want her to take accountability and self-awareness to the other players in the sisterhood of the WNBA. What sisterhood?
Here's the exact line, because context matters. McNutt said, "I do think as she continues to matriculate through this league, there's room for a little more accountability and self-awareness in terms of her role in the larger sisterhood, if she sees it that way in the WNBA." It's a lot of words to essentially say one thing. Caitlin Clark isn't doing enough for her fellow players, and it's on her to fix that.
League, and they're the one that's causing everything that goes on around to the other players. The threats, the this, the that. It's Caitlin Clark fans. That's what she just did. That's the narrative you spew. That's the one you keep pushing. Caitlin Clark came out in her interview and she said, "Hey guys, it's a lot of pressure on me that I have to figure out everything for everybody. Whatever I say, it gets taken another way. However I play, it gets taken another way. I'm not that person that y'all are trying to make me out to be. I just want to hoop. Let's keep it basketball. I want to play basketball. And every chance y'all get, even though y'all are saying that the media need to take more accountability and redirecting it to basketball, Monica McNutt for ESPN, the Nut, gets on there, and the first chance she gets, she takes."
The problem is, Clark never signed up to be the sisterhood spokesperson. She signed up to play basketball, win games, and build a career. And every single time she's been asked about the drama surrounding her, she's tried to steer the conversation back to the court. So when someone with a national platform stands up and says she needs to be more self-aware about a role she never applied for, that's not analysis. That's an assignment nobody gave her, followed by a public grade for failing it.
WNBA and all the people that follow the WNBA and try to promote the WNBA don't understand that Caitlin Clark's game resonates with us. I say this every day, and every day I got to deal with somebody else dumb in the media. Caitlin Clark's game resonates because she's got flair, she's got flash, she's got style. I said this before, and I'll say this again. We saw Sue Bird's game. We saw Diana Taurasi's game. Kim Mulkey was Sue Bird before Sue Bird became Sue Bird. We've seen it. We haven't seen Caitlin Clark. The folks that cover the NBA, these people that play in the NBA, these people that cover the NBA, there, I said these people, all of you, black, white, green, purple. Why don't you understand a very simple thing? Her game is dynamic. Like Diana Taurasi was like a jackass to Caitlin Clark. Why? Her game is what people are drawn to. And then you go to the personality. Her game is different than any WNBA.
And here's the thing that makes it sting even more. McNutt used the word matriculate, like Clark is still working her way through some kind of orientation process. This is a former National Player of the Year, an Olympic gold medalist, and arguably the most impactful rookie the league has ever seen. She's not a freshman figuring out where the cafeteria is. She's already carrying the league on her back, ratings-wise and revenue-wise, and she's being told she still hasn't learned the social rules of the room.
What the league has to offer is yourself and Paige Beckers and Asia Wilson. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And yet so much of the discourse feels completely and totally unrelated to that. Do you feel that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it is it's not always based in reality. I feel like media and journalism have a responsibility to tell the stories, and a lot of times you guys are the ones controlling the narratives about what people read and what people talk about, and a lot of that is sometimes so far out of touch with what is reality, and that can be confusing to somebody that's 24 and trying to navigate life and trying to help her team win a championship.
Just 2 days before McNutt's segment aired, Clark had already addressed the media circus around her directly, and her answer said everything about where her head actually is. She told ESPN the coverage of her can be exhausting and that a lot of it is not always based in reality, adding that media has a responsibility to tell stories accurately instead of controlling narratives that spiral far from the truth. That's a 24-year-old trying to explain, calmly and without attacking anyone, that she's not the villain people keep painting her as. Wants to play basketball and help her team win a championship. That's it. That's the whole.
I said, my player, she was one of the few players that was actually trying to, not rob the consumers of their hard-earned money that they paid to come watch them. And she was actually trying to put on a show. She was one of the few, because there was a couple others, that was really trying to put on a show. And, people like that, you should give admiration.
And on the court, that's exactly what she's been doing. Clark helped Team Spoon beat Team Coop 129-122 in one of the most entertaining All-Star games the league has put on in years. And by every measure, that weekend was about basketball first. She wasn't holding press conferences about locker room politics. She wasn't campaigning for some sisterhood cause. She was hooping the same way she's hooped since college, the same way that built her entire fan base in the first place. They fell in love with her because she pulls up from 30 feet and makes it look easy. So when the story shifts again from what she does with a basketball to what she supposedly owes other people emotionally, it feels like a bait and switch on the fans too. They tuned in for the game. They keep getting handed a soap opera instead.
If you guys can't see this hatred for Caitlyn, I don't understand. Please explain it to me. Monica McNutt and her conversation, it's like whenever the lines start to get closer and closer, boom, people want to break them apart. Caitlyn, I thought, had a great interview, and it was actually quite brave of her to say, I'm sometimes scared after a game because I don't know what you guys are going to ask me. Yeah. You don't, she doesn't know. Somebody else gets off the court, AB, anybody, they get asked about the game. Caitlyn, anything can go. And did you hear that guy up there yelling for you? Did you hear this about, see that t-shirt? What do you think about that? I thought it was very brave of her to say that. And then
This is the part that's really setting people off. McNutt was physically present at All-Star Weekend. She was in the building doing interviews, doing her job as an ESPN analyst covering the event live. If she genuinely believed Clark needed a talking to about accountability, she had a direct line to do it in person, athlete to reporter, face-to-face, the same way reporters have pulled players aside for candid moments plenty of times before in other sports. She didn't do that. Saying something critical isn't automatically wrong. Analysts are paid to have opinions, and nobody expects every take to be flattering. But choosing to say it on air after having the actual opportunity to say it in person and passing on it reads less like honest feedback and more like a move designed to generate a headline and drive engagement off Clark's name, which happens to be the single most reliable traffic generator in women's basketball right now. There's also something a little uncomfortable about the power imbalance here. Clark doesn't get a live rebuttal segment. She doesn't get to walk onto Women's Sports Sunday the next morning and respond point by point. The broadcast has the microphone, she doesn't. And that asymmetry is exactly why doing it this way, instead of face-to-face, lands so badly with.
And that's what we're going to do over the course of this
Now, keep in mind, y'all, this came directly after Caitlyn Clark did her interviews speaking on the people that get on TV and say stuff like this. This came right after that. And then Doofus gets up there and says this, a bunch of malarkey, continuing to carry on the exact same things Caitlyn was talking about. And then people talking about sisterhood. Bro, this is a job. Just like all y'all that's watching this. You go to your job, you clock in, you do what you gotta do, you go home. Just like they clock in, go to practice, go home. Clock in, play the game, go home. Of course you got your treatment, all that, but still, that's just what it is. It's a job. This whole sisterhood stuff is part of the problem. Because the sisterhood want to hate on Caitlyn for benefiting the sisterhood just because she don't want to bend the knee and kiss feet and two cheeks. Y'all be in y'all feelings. So I'm going to ask this question like I asked again. If we talking about basketball plays, so why hasn't, I'm going to use Olivia Miles and Paige Beckers because they are top ball handlers in the WNBA.
The backlash has been loud, and it's been fast. Former NFL player Jeff Schwartz put it plainly, saying, "It's just obvious that people covering the league just don't like Clark, and that the standard to which they expect from her is just not attainable, and nothing she does will ever be enough." Another fan wrote that McNutt is basically blaming Caitlyn for not taking accountability for people's reactions to things done to her, which, when you say it out loud, sounds pretty backwards. Someone else pointed out that this is a professional sports league, not a sorority, and that nobody in any other sport gets told they owe fealty to teammates and predecessors just for existing at the top. That last point actually cuts deep, because it's true. You don't see male athletes getting lectured on national TV about whether they're uplifting their sports brotherhood enough. Other fans dug even further, pointing out that Clark has repeatedly given credit to teammates, praised opponents publicly, and shown up for league initiatives without complaint. The accusation that she lacks self-awareness doesn't really line up with some who weeks earlier had already addressed exactly this criticism calmly and directly in an interview. It's hard to say someone lacks self-awareness when they've clearly been thinking about the exact question being asked of.
Sisterhood. You know what she's saying, right? She's not saying all women. She's talking about the black women. Monica McNutt's mad racist, guys. Mad racist. Now, here's the thing. If you embrace Caitlin Clark a little bit more instead of hating on her all the time, she would definitely be a larger role. I think Caitlin Clark has done enough for the WNBA. My God, it's like never enough for this woman. Never enough. This is the same woman that thought Angel Reese should have won Rookie of the Year. She was pushing Angel. She's like, if the records are better, if Angel Reese has a better record, you got to give the nod to Angel Reese. Guess what? How many votes Angel Reese got? 1. And then she said, well, the reason why she got all this fame because she's white, not because she broke a whole bunch of records or broke 62 records in the WNBA the same year or got first all team as a rookie. Yeah, none of that. None of that. Broke cis record. Nah, no matter. No matter. Nah.
This also isn't some one-off comment McNutt made in a vacuum. She's been down this road with Clark before. Back in 2025, she drew fire for suggesting Clark only deserved 60% of the credit for the Fever making the playoffs. A comment that had fans asking why her contributions were being discounted in real time while the team was actually winning. Pattern recognition isn't a conspiracy theory when the pattern keeps repeating. Every few months, there's a new McNutt comment that trends for the same basic reason. It minimizes what Clark accomplishes on the court while amplifying what she supposedly hasn't done off it. And every time the same cycle plays out, the clip goes viral, fans push back hard, McNutt doesn't really walk it back, and a few months later the whole thing happens again with slightly different.
I feel like it's time to reset the conversation, and I understand that you and I and this platform, First Take, we have a job to do. Every day we're asked to break down the game, to analyze the game, to give our opinions on players, to give our opinions on teams.
Ironically, no. Like, you're not being asked to do that. You can see in Stephen A. Smith's face. The WNBA has lasted 30 years. You are being asked to talk about the topics that are going to generate the most clicks. It's as simple as that. Which often isn't basketball. And you had an ability in 2024 to make the conversation about basketball, and you all fail. Everyone failed miserably.
McNutt isn't operating alone in this either. Channy Ogumike has taken heat for similar framing, at one point suggesting Clark can embellish contact after Alyssa Thomas was suspended for actually striking her, a comment that plenty of viewers felt shifted blame away from the person committing the foul and onto the person who got hit. But interestingly, Ogumike appeared to walk some of that back recently, telling viewers on First Take that the conversation around Clark and the WNBA needs to reset and get back to basketball. That timing matters if cutting one analyst is enough to make another one visibly change her approach within days. It says the pressure inside that building is real, and it raises an obvious question about whether McNutt is simply next in line for that same kind of internal reckoning.
Caitlin Clark has never said she's the face of the league. Caitlin Clark has never made anything about race. The only thing Caitlin Clark happens to be is white and play a very different brand of basketball and went to Iowa. She played the game differently from other white and black players and played a style of basketball that I hadn't seen a female play. That's why I fell in love with her. And all she has done is elevated the league, the game. She's got them the collective bargaining agreement. She's gotten them to fly private. She's behind closed doors argued has come out for player increases. The NBA asked her to do the 3-point contest. She said, no, I won't do that. I'll do the female version first. All she has done is advocated for the WNBA. Whenever she's asked, she said, thank you to the players who came before. She wants to succeed in this league. And she's just basically...
Zoom out, and you start seeing a bigger pattern than just one analyst's opinion. Over the past few weeks, Clark has been compared unfavorably in print to things that have absolutely nothing to do with basketball, and she's been falsely accused of skipping events for reasons that were never actually true. When she gets fouled hard, and there's been plenty of physical contact directed at her this season, including shots to the face and grabs to the throat, the conversation somehow still finds a way to circle back to what Clark supposedly needs to fix about herself. Class narrative fans keep pointing to. She gets hit, and the follow-up question becomes about her tone. She gets criticized unfairly, and the follow-up commentary becomes about whether she's handling it with enough grace. It's a no-win setup, and fans have started calling it out by name instead of just quietly getting frustrated in the replies.
How much longer is Monica McNutt going to get away with tearing down Caitlin Clark? Caitlin Clark has done more for the league than arguably anybody in the history of the league. Caitlin said this past week that she's exhausted from the media, straight up. And I was like, who can really change the narrative and sit down with Caitlin and let her just spill everything? And I think that person would be Alex Cooper. And according to Kalshi Traders, Caitlin Clark does have a chance of being a guest on Call Her Daddy this year. She's got an 8% chance this year, better than 0. But back to Monica McNutt. At what point is ESPN going to step in and say, hey, what you're doing tearing down this woman in so many instances is...
To be clear, nobody has filed an actual lawsuit, and there's no legal case currently sitting in front of a judge over any of this. What's really happening is fans venting in the language of accountability, the same word McNutt used against Clark, except now aimed right back at ESPN and its talent. Comments like, ESPN needs to get rid of her man, and calls for her to be fired mid-show have been flooding replies since the segment aired. Given that ESPN just parted ways with Ryan Clark, Cam Newton, Bart Scott, and several other names in a round of layoffs, the frustration isn't unreasonable. Some of the loudest voices online have framed it almost like a workplace liability issue, arguing that repeatedly making the network's biggest asset the target of unprompted criticism is bad business, even if it never becomes an actual courtroom matter.
From Monica McNutt. So shame on her for somehow once again blaming Caitlin. Why would you ever blame Caitlin? What has she done that you say she owes it to these other women in the league to be better? Where? How? What? All she has done is risen this.
Going back to Clark's own words ties this whole thing together. She told ESPN directly that there's just like a false characterization of who I am circulating in the coverage, and that a 24-year-old trying to navigate normal life while chasing a championship shouldn't have to constantly untangle narratives that have nothing to do with reality. She's not asking for sympathy. She's asking for the story to actually be about basketball, which is the one thing she's never stopped delivering on the court, All-Star Weekend.
This is the sisterhood Monica McNutt is talking about. Nobody wants to see this. She has fans that are 5-year-old little girls. She's not Paige Beckers, and I am so glad she's not. She's gonna let her game do the talking. Accountability? The players attacking her need accountability. The commissioner that hires these corrupt refs need to show accountability. But Caitlin Clark, I'm sorry, she's the one getting beat up. She doesn't need to change anything and actually needs to get the respect that she...
At the end of the day, that's really the core of this whole controversy. Clark keeps showing up, keeps winning, and keeps trying to redirect every conversation back to the game itself. And every time she does that, someone on a broadcast finds a new way to make the story about her performance. Whether McNutt ends up facing real consequences from ESPN remains to be seen. But the fan reaction this week makes one thing pretty clear. People are tired of watching that pattern repeat, and they're not staying quiet about it.